The Buffalo Bills send a message to the rest of the league that don't be overlooking them as the best team. We'll talk about that and more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On NFL. I am the host of the Locked On NFL podcast, Tony Wiggins, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. And we are sponsored today by Game Time. Take time to go out and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us. And on Locked On NFL, you know we run it down. We're going to talk about this. By the time we get to the end of the show, we'll look at the Monday Night Football action and see if Jameis Winston can pull some more of his magic. But the Falcons, they're one of the biggest enigmas in the league, man. We'll talk about that. Right smack in the middle, the Eagles use a Raven, a Game of Thrones reference. They send a Raven to send notice that they are the cold hard truth. Somebody thinks they're the best. And then the Bills clinch the AFC East. We'll get the Julian Council here, our Monday host. He's already laughing at the Falcons take. I got it, Julian. I call him an enigma for a reason, man. But we'll definitely get to that. You impressed with Buffalo? Let's just start out right there. You impressed with Buffalo?
Yeah, I'm impressed by Buffalo. They went on that snow game on Sunday night. Josh Allen looks tremendous again. And yeah, the MVP talk is ramping up even more as that seems to be a foregone conclusion 13 weeks into the season.
It does, man. Joe Marino is going to run down all of the reasons from Locked On Bills after last night's game. He is going to slowly tell you some facts before we get to segment 2 where somebody else says some facts. But listen to what Joe Marino says about the Bills, and it makes a really, really good point.
It's the first time in franchise history the Bills have won the division 5 years in a row. The Bills are the first team since 2009 to win the division with 5 games still remaining on the schedule, one of only 8 teams ever to do it. Josh Allen became the all-time leader in touchdowns for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills scored 30 or more points in 9 games this season already. That ties a franchise record. 10 wins in 12 games so far this year. Half of those wins by 21 points or more. This is the 6th consecutive season of 10 or more wins for the Buffalo Bills. Oh, by the way, this is their 7th win in a row.
Sounds convincing to me, man, because I think outside of Buffalo, you don't even know that they're doing that because everybody's been paying attention to everyone else and what they're not doing, like Kansas City and all of that. The Buffalo Bills have a pretty solid resume to feel like they are the best team.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly incredible what Brandon Beane, their general manager, and Sean McDermott, their head coach, and of course, Josh Allen have been able to build there over the last 5+ years in Buffalo, a franchise that spent 19 years outside of the playoffs and now is a perennial playoff team and perennial Super Bowl contender. And they're going to be as long as Josh Allen stays healthy. And I don't know how many people felt like this Bills team, after losing Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in that secondary, after watching Stephon Diggs leave and go to Houston, I don't think a lot of people thought Buffalo would win the division this early. Now, it's not surprising that they won the division. There are certainly questions about Miami and whether they could actually overtake Buffalo. No one expected New England to be good this year. I mean, I guess some people talked themselves into the Jets, but you're an idiot if you did that. Excuse me. But still, like this was probably the most likely scenario anyways, but to do it with 5 games left into the season, I don't think anyone expected Buffalo to be this dominant this year. And that's why Josh Allen has the MVP case that he has, as he clearly has been the most valuable player to his team this season. He's sitting there at minus 250, looking at where our friends at FanDuel with Saquon Barkley second at plus 500. And we know the NFL, they're not giving it to a running back. So this thing is a wrap right now. Josh Allen winning the MVP likely here in 2024.
It is. And you know what? It's a good time. I wish Cam Newton had made his game manager, franchise quarterback scenario up this year, because if you do it this year, even if he wants to start peacocking and saying, what did I tell you? You now have situations where quote unquote franchise quarterbacks are absolutely being game managers, right? And then using certain parts of the game to go and be Superman just a little bit. Like I said, Clark Kent was Clark Kent for 23 hours a day. He was on the Superman for an hour every day. Whereas now you see in San Francisco what's going on with the guy that he was talking about, how when they get injuries, when they don't have talent, they can't do the exact same things. And I want you to hear Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers after that loss last night.
Well, it's December 1st. It's third quarter. The San Francisco 49ers are down 28-3 to the Buffalo Bills. Amari Cooper just caught a pass, then pitched it back to Josh Allen for a touchdown. The 49ers aren't coming back in this game. The season is pretty much over, so I'm going to start finishing up the Christmas lights here, because that's the end of the season for the San Francisco 49ers. They're cooked. They're done. They're hurt. Guys are banged up. Guys are playing that probably shouldn't even be playing at this point. It's time to shut it down, get ready for 2025. The San Francisco 49ers season all but over now. And love snow games, though. Ban domes, in my opinion. Ban the 2024 San Francisco 49ers.
Peacock, hey man, Peacock's like he was ready to run out there. You know what I'm saying? Don't go, man. Don't be the deer, man. You know what I mean? Don't go out there in traffic now. But he sounds like somebody who's just ready for Christmas. And it is that we talked about 5 games left for the Bills. This is a weird situation for us. We've been used to seeing Shanahan in the playoffs. We've been used to at least them being the standard bearer, if you will, for the West Coast, with the exception of 1 year with the Rams. This thing fell off the cliff really, really fast, and they got a lot of high salary people on staff.
Yeah, people say NFL not for long, and that's what happened for a team that was in the Super Bowl last year that's likely not going to make the playoffs this year. And this is not the first time San Francisco's had a year where that's just been completely derailed by injuries. It happened a couple of years ago as well. And I still think Brock Purdy is, a good enough quarterback. I mean, certainly we saw last year as he helped him get to the Super Bowl. Is he going to be that dude when you go up against Mahomes or against Allen in that kind of setting? Is he going to be the one who takes over the top? I don't necessarily believe that's going to be the case. But overall, you don't have Aiyuk. He's out for the rest of the season. McCaffrey had a PCL injury last night. He's probably done for the year. And I wonder moving forward with the tendonitis he was already dealing with in both of his Achilles tendons and this injury. Do you ever get Christian McCaffrey back at the level you had him at the previous seasons when he got to San Francisco? I'm not quite so sure, especially with the running back mileage that he has from his time in Carolina to how they utilize him the last 2 years there in SF. So yeah, they're done. It's unfortunate because I felt like this was going to be a really good team this year, but football's a brutal game, man. And that's sometimes you lose your best players. And this is where you're at 13 weeks in the season, sitting there at 5-7 and headed towards not making the playoffs.
Man, this is something I did not expect. I promise you, you put this on my bingo card that after 12, 13 weeks that the 49ers will be where they are and the Bills will be where they are. I'd have lost everything, man. I'm glad I ain't a gambling man and nobody really made me do that. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 2 really good teams that played yesterday. And one of them sent a message. Then they used the Ravens to do it. I think the Eagles are for real. And my man, Lou DiBiase, says, hold on, Buffalo. I know who the best team is, and that is Philadelphia. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Ice Shaker. That's right, man, Ice Shaker. It is a very, very good product for you to give a great Christmas gift. If you're like me and holiday shopping is hard, but you got a bunch of sports fans in your family that's going to be around, a perfect gift would be Ice Shaker. If you never heard of it, it's now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, and NCAA and Major League Baseball. It will make a great gift. It was created by the Gronkowski brothers. Ice Shaker has sold over 1 million bottles. That's right. And they have changed the game with workout bottles. Go to iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your order. Now, it's your favorite teams. You can order branded bottles with your favorite teams on them today at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker. Show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. They are Ice Shakers. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. Christmas is upon us, and sometimes it's a good time to see family. Well, there's some people that might not be around because time and distance won't allow them to do it. And it can be really, really depressing, man. And if you're that person and you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. I've been in the military. I saw guys who couldn't get home, man, and it was really something else because they couldn't be around their loved ones. Well, you can find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked-on today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on if you're considering therapy. Running it down with my man Julian Council here, Locked On NFL and Locked On Panthers. We'll give him a chance to show Bryce Young a little love here late in segment 3. But right now, good game yesterday, game of the week, if you will, between the Eagles and the Ravens, two teams that were really, really attempting to show who they are. They're kind of built up the same way with the same mentality, with two really good running backs in new places, and the Eagles came out on top, and Lou DiBiase is already saying they're the best team in the – well, he said it a few weeks ago, but now he's really letting you know that he believes they're the best team in the NFL. Check this out, Julian.
All right, so a few weeks ago I made the take the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC, even over the Detroit Lions. After defeating Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and the Baltimore Ravens today, I have another take. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now. They are the team to beat. They are the most complete roster in the NFL. You have a young defense completely shut down two of the MVP candidates in Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and it wasn't just one player. The entire defensive line dominated. The entire linebacking core dominated. All the young players in the secondary dominated. Quinyon Mitchell making plays one-on-one against Zay Flowers. Cooper DeJean body slamming Derrick Henry. Even Tristan McCullum making a play on fourth down. And of course, on offense, they have the most clutch, historic rushing attack maybe the NFL has ever seen. That came over in the fourth quarter, and Jalen Hurts made the timely plays he needed to defeat the Ravens. I really think this is the cream of the crop in the league.
He's got some points. And just a couple of weeks ago, we thought the team they played yesterday had the most devastating rushing attack in the NFL. I mean, I'm with Louis until somebody proves me wrong, but they are playing really, really well right now.
Yeah, no, they are. And I mean, quick corrections here from Louis. Derrick Henry's not an MVP candidate. He's not even in top 10 in the odds in FanDuel. So that does not make you a candidate. And secondly, they're not the team to beat in the NFC. It's the Detroit Lions, as I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. They are clearly the best team. Plus 180 point differential for Detroit, plus 102 for Philadelphia, who's on an 8-game winning streak. And we're going to find out, though, over the next couple of weeks just how good Detroit is and if they're going to live up to the moniker, I believe, as the best team in the NFL. They got the Packers coming up next week. They got the Bills after that. Like, those are two big games to really show, and that might be a Super Bowl preview when they face off against Buffalo at home in a couple of weeks. While Philadelphia, they got the Panthers coming up, a team that they should beat. They got the Steelers, who are now 9-3. Commanders still, I think, a little easier path. Detroit still has a game against Minnesota. Now, all those games, the Packers, the Bills, and the Vikings are at home. So that plays in Detroit's favor, and they should be a team. And they're going to need to win those, at least I would think 2 of those 3, in order to get the home field throughout the playoffs there at Ford Field. If they drop 2, that opens up the door for Philadelphia to maybe they do end up being the best team in the NFC. But I do still think the Lions are the best team, while Philadelphia, after that 2-2 start, people talk about, is Sirianni going to make it? They've turned things around. They're the best rushing team. I guess Baltimore may be statistically the best rushing team. I'm not quite sure, but both of those teams are great rushing wise, but they have been outstanding the last 8 weeks, and they certainly are in the conversation. I just am not going to say right now that they're the better team than the Lions, which we might find out in January.
But it's funny, though, that we're now discussing 2 NFC teams, Julian, at the top, because going into the season, and even as the season progressed early, it was all about, I know people were talking about Detroit, but everybody was still a little bit on the take a, let's wait and see. But a lot of people were talking about the 49ers, but everyone was talking about how tough the AFC was with all of those quarterbacks and with that the AFC North and all of these things. And now you look up and we're talking about Philly, we're talking about Detroit. And then you made a very good point about the elements. This is, I think, just as big of who gets home field as it is whether or not a team has to go to Arrowhead. to play the Chiefs. So because the Chiefs, I think, can win anywhere. They can lose anywhere too, but they can win anywhere. One of those teams is Baltimore. Baltimore's schedule has been brutal, man, and they are battle tested. But to me, they're showing that the test, they keep failing a lot of them, even if it's barely. And it's time to stop making excuses for them. Listen to the Baltimore Ravens host, Kevin Ostreicher.
The Baltimore Ravens fall to the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 13. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. 24-19, the final score in a rough one for Baltimore as Justin Tucker, the big story, misses 3 kicks, bringing his season total to 10. Lamar Jackson and the offense start fast, but really flounder their way through the rest of the game. I thought Baltimore's defense did a really good job of giving the offense chances, but they could just not capitalize. Baltimore falls to 8-5, and they enter their bye week with plenty of soul searching needed to be done across multiple different phases of the game if they hope to continue to make a playoff push and try to win the AFC North. For more on the Ravens and their Week 13 loss, be sure to check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Ross, I think they're good. I think they can beat anybody. But Baltimore has also proven that they can lose to anybody. And yesterday it was the offense that let them down. And if Justin Tucker was anybody other than Justin Tucker, he would have been cut a long time ago.
Yeah, probably. I do kind of respect that John Harbaugh is going off of history and knowing that he's the best kicker in the history of the NFL. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but you also have to understand he's struggling right now. And it typically is a mental thing. I don't know. Is he physically deteriorating before our eyes? Because sometimes it just happens just like that when it comes to just players in general, but maybe with kickers as well. So they might have to be more aggressive on those 4th downs moving forward if they're in that position to do so. He still made a 50-yarder in the game yesterday. But you look at Baltimore, they're going to be a playoff team. We know that. And I think it's important looking at the AFC playoff picture right now, they would have to go on the road to play Pittsburgh in wildcard weekend. And we understand that Lamar Jackson has not had success against the Steelers really in his career. And he's missed a couple of those games, but still he has not had success. And we already know the trope about him in the playoffs where, you know, they went to the AFC title game last year when they would get over the top against Kansas City. God, what a terrible thing that is. But you want to find a way to get that 5 seed because Houston, they're vulnerable. And that's the team I think they can beat Houston. Then you're looking going on the road, maybe against Buffalo, which is not ideal. But that's a situation you put yourself in if you don't win the division. It's still possible. They still have another game against Pittsburgh that will be at home. They got the Giants after the bye, then home against Pittsburgh. So there's this opportunity, there's a chance there for them to be able to step in there. And Pittsburgh still has Kansas City left, I believe. And I think someone else who's also pretty good. It's not a great situation Baltimore finds himself in, but that's the AFC. I mean, that's the life.
Right.
When you have Mahomes, I mean, Burrow's not going to be in it this year. It looks like you have Russell Wilson there in Pittsburgh and just really Tomlin there in Pittsburgh. Lamar, like it's never going to be an easy road. So for them, they got great time to get the bye, get rested up, and then see if they can go on a run here in the final, 4 weeks of the season and see if they can win the division.
Now, there are sometimes teams switching to the NFC, the South in particular. There's sometimes a team, they take on a look of their player. And when that player is a new player and he's good, he puts up numbers, he can beat a good team, but he can lose to a bad team. I think the Falcons are looking just like Kirk Cousins. They look just like Kirk Cousins, and we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Game Time. There's no need to fret and worry about getting tickets to any event as long as you have Game Time. I don't care if it's about sports, comedy shows, plays, monster trucks. Game Time is the place where you need to just take the guesswork out of buying tickets and download the Game Time app. And when you do that, you can create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you. LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today and start getting your tickets right now. What time is it? It's game time. Locked on NFL here on a Monday with Julian Council of Locked on NFL and Locked on Carolina Panthers. Right, Locked on Panthers. Real quick before we start talking about Kirk Cousins. That boy Bryce Young ain't bad, man. I saw him looking like high school 5-star Bryce Young yesterday. Looks like they got a little something to work with him now moving forward.
Yeah, they do, at least for the next 5 weeks this season. I don't want to make any declarative statements after two of his best performances in the NFL so far against Kansas City, who has an outstanding defense, and then against the Bucs yesterday in a game where Carolina really should have won. But he's been outstanding last 2 weeks. But there's also a lot of bad that's on that resume, and it looks like he's starting to turn the corner. Let's see how he plays against Philadelphia on Sunday and in the final 4 weeks, and then the Panthers can make a decision. But right now, it looks pretty clear that they should be building around Bryce Young again this offseason, and that they should be making a bigger decision after next year if he starts those games and deciding whether they want to exercise that fifth-year option into 2026 offseason. But right now, he's looking good and looking exactly the way that you would hoped when they took him number 1 overall about 18 months ago.
And a question that always comes up with him is, how do you handle a quarterback that you pick real high? Would you rather him play, or would you rather him be like Michael Penix, sitting there in Atlanta, getting picked, not getting a chance to play, watching another dude make $60 million and go up and down the field? At first, it looked pretty good. Kirk with his chains on and his gold teeth, and he's swag surfing, and now they're ready to run him out of town because they keep losing games that they're supposed to win. Woo, does this sound like Kirk Cousins' career to me? A lot of money, a lot of stats, and a whole lot of mediocre play. Hold on, listen to Aaron Freeman real quick.
A chaotic day for Kirk Cousins with the Falcons dropping their third straight. I'm Aaron Freeman with Locked on Falcons. The Falcons lost another heartbreaker to the LA Chargers, 17-13, losing their third straight game and looking to do their best to blow their NFC South lead to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now that they're 6-6. It was a disastrous day for Kirk Cousins, who threw 4 interceptions, including a pick 6. The much maligned Falcons defense had their best game of the season, sacking Justin Herbert 5 times, holding the Chargers offense to 187 yards, a season low for the Falcons defense. But the Falcons are just going to have to find a way to regroup next week on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. Hopefully Cousins' play will step up as he revisits his old stomping grounds. For more coverage of the Falcons blowing their playoff hopes, follow Locked on Falcons, part of Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here we go. Everybody in Atlanta's they're gonna snatch those chains off Kirk, man. You know them chains come easy, but they'll snatch him back. They'll repo him in a heartbeat, bro.
Yeah, the Falcons are cooked. It's over, man. They have the Vikings next week. They're gonna get their ass kicked. That is an excellent defense. They still who else do they have on this? They have the Commanders. That's a loss. Heck, they could lose to the Raiders at this rate. This is not a good team. Now, the Kirk Cousins criticism, like, I've always felt like Kirk Cousins is actually a good quarterback. I know he's made a lot of money. People like to say, oh, he can't win in primetime, as if like that means something. Oh, he doesn't win on Thursday Night Football, he must suck. What? Like, that's so asinine when people say that. Oh man, he's not winning on Monday Night Football. Guys, like, okay. Like,
it's a game.
I guess
right.
Not the stat. I guess that's something that matters. I mean, 4 picks yesterday. Can't have it. Still looks like somebody who can't move, and maybe the Falcons made the right decision by drafting Michael Penix Jr. Now, this always felt like a 2-year proposition with Kirk, and it still should be. They should still go out there, put him out there next year, and do more this offseason to build that defense that's still not great. They're last in the NFL in sacks. It's not like defensively they're really doing their part. Now, they did yesterday. They didn't give up a ton of yardage and points against the Chargers. But, yeah, it's not great. This is a team that's been fraudulent all year long. The only saving grace to have is they have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay because they beat them twice somehow. But this is not going to be a playoff team. It's over.
So I wonder. I'm starting to wonder now if Atlanta was smarter than all of us. Like, if they knew that they were going to play him for 1 year, right? I don't know if he has a no trade clause. Is there a team that can't get a quarterback, or they may want to view what the Falcons did as a 1-year rental so they can win and hold their quarterback like next year? Like if somebody's going to pick a dude number one next year and they're a good enough team, like the Raiders maybe.
Yeah.
Do they now trade Kirk Cousins and get like a day 2 pick for Kirk Cousins, a second or a third round pick? And does it make them look smart now if they're going to roll Penix out there and let somebody else pay the rest of that fee for Kirk Cousins and let them do to their new quarterback next year? Could he go to New York? Could Brian Daboll say, I ain't depending my career on a rookie? At least we know this guy can play and win some football games. Yeah, we'll send you a second round pick for him. And if that happens, will the Atlanta Falcons finally look smart?
Well, it depends on how much of the contract that acquiring team would have to pay and how much Atlanta would have to pay. There's remaining years. Now, they're not all guaranteed, and what kind of dead cap hit there's going to be. Like, there's so many things that go into it. But you think about, too, man, the only team that's even sitting their rookie is Atlanta because they already had Kirk. And they saw that Michael Penix Jr. was on the board, and they felt, well, why not? Yeah. And you can look at that as well and wonder, what if instead of getting Michael Penix Jr., they got an edge rusher or someone who could help the team immediately this season instead of thinking about what could the team look like 3 years into the future, which a lot of teams don't necessarily do, which is a positive thing. But the Patriots sat Drake May for a little bit, but he's out there now. Washington always is going to play Jaden Daniels. Same thing with Chicago and Caleb Williams. Bo Nix there in Denver. I have a hard time thinking that the Giants are going to sit there and not play maybe Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, whatever they decide to do at quarterback. The Raiders, probably the same case. These teams have no patience. They just want to go ahead and get it done. Maybe there's an acquiring team. I think it's going to be one of those situations where Atlanta is going to keep Kirk next year, hope that he is healthier and more mobile after more of a year removed from that Achilles tear, and that they can build a team around him. And I feel like they have offensively, but build more on defense to be a more complementary football team next season, where this year they clearly have flaws aside from Kirk Cousins, where he's had some great games this year. The Thursday night game can't win in primetime, the Thursday night game against Tampa. He was excellent, but they still had too many of these moments that remind you of the Kirk Cousins that so many people have been so critical of throughout his career, even though he's been a solid quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Interesting scenarios and moving forward with the Atlanta Falcons, but the Bucs now have Mike Evans back. Won a game yesterday, like you said, that they should have lost. But that's the one that we'll probably look back and go, that was a critical game for them to win. And now they could go on a little run. And the Tampa will be a headache for somebody in the first round of the playoffs. Real quick, Monday Night Football tonight, can Jameis Winston go up to the atmosphere of the Denver Broncos in Denver and make snow bunnies up there? I don't know if it's snowing, but Jameis on prime time with another chance just for the interviews, bro. I want him to win just so I can hear the interviews after the game.
I guess. What absurd thing is he going to say next?
Yeah, James, the air is thin up here, but it gives you a chance to really inhale it, and it really goes inside your body. Man, James is going to say something crazy, man.
I had a friend who said to me, it's like Jameis is doing a parody of Jameis. And I don't think there's a better way to encapsulate what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. This is a big game for Denver.
It is.
You can ill afford, because they should be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. And Indianapolis is a team that is hoping that they lose this game because they play them in 2 weeks after Denver's bye. And that could be an opportunity for the Colts with Anthony Richardson back in the lineup to go out there, beat Denver, hold that tiebreaker for that last wild card spot in the AFC. If Denver wins this game, they still have the Chargers on the road. They got at Cincinnati, who I don't think they're going to go ahead and throw in a towel even in the final in week 17, and in Kansas City. And in that game, it gets to week 18 and NFL teams decide we're going to rest their players, which I understand, but I always hate that just for the integrity of the game. Like every game you should try to play and make sure that you want your division rival going to the playoff. I don't think you want to keep them out, but I understand you got bigger goals to accomplish. But we'll see, because this is the game they have to win, because the rest of their games are against teams other than, I guess, Cincinnati. They're right there in the thick of things in the playoff hunt. So cannot drop this one tonight at home.
I'll tell you what, Teams like this are really making football and blocking and tackling. They're making it fun again, making it great again. All right, man. Good Monday here on Locked On NFL. Make sure you check us out each and every day on Locked On NFL with the double dose early in the morning. Tyler Rowland will hit you with a shot of espresso, and I'll be here in the afternoon in the barbershop. For Julian Counsel, for me and everybody else, thank you, and we'll see you next time here on Locked On NFL.